Hello everyone, my name is JR, and in this video I'm sharing with you some of the highlights of the apple project that we have going on in our residence in Orlando, Florida. And you're like, wait a minute, did he just say Orlando, Florida? Florida is not known to be an apple growing region, right? And even if you have seen some folks growing apples in Florida, it'll be either Anna or Dorset Golden, maybe Ein Shimmer, the ones that are considered low chill. And that's all you can grow, right? Wrong. So in this video, I'm going to dispel some of those myths, and I'm going to show you the different varieties that have fruit right now. So join me on this little tour through our property. Okay, so the first stop in our tour is going to be on this cluster of 3 apple trees, and they are Pixie Crunch, Cox's Orange Pippin, and Golden Russet. The Pixie Crunch is a beautiful apple. As you can see right over here, it'll turn dark red, really beautiful, and it's gonna have a very nice flavor, kind of like vanilla and caramel. It's very juicy, crunchy, like the Honeycrisp. It's not a large apple, but it's really worth it because it's flavorful. And this is an apple that was developed by the PRI program at Purdue Rutgers University of Illinois. You would think, wow, this is an apple that is not supposed to produce here, but yet again, it's here, and it has plenty of apples. Over here, we have Cox's Orange Pippin, which is the most flavorful dessert apple from England. And we have a little cluster right here that developed late. We have about 5 apples. That's really great. And over here, we have the only Golden Russet that has been developing this season. Last year it overproduced, so I think that because of that it has a little bit of biennial tendency. So if you want apples to produce every year, you want to make sure that you are thinning the fruit when necessary, when it's like overabundant, so that the tree doesn't exhaust all the resources needed to produce fruit every year. In our next stop, we have another cluster of apple trees, and over here in the corner we have Coconut Crunch. This one doesn't have any apples this season so far. Over here we have Mela Carla, which is an apple variety from the 1200s. It's a Mediterranean variety, and we're really excited because this is something from ancient times, and it's doing very well here in our property. This tree is very special over here. This is known as Black Strawberry. It's an apple developed by a friend of mine, Stephen Edholm, from Skilcolt in California, and it's a cross between King David and Grenadine. So it's supposed to have pink flesh on the inside. We have one cluster of apples over here, and there's some others like this one that's here in the bottom. That's also part of the Black Strawberry. So we're gonna have to wait a couple more months before we can try them, but it's really exciting because the pink flesh on the inside is supposed to have like this strawberry cereal flavor. So we're definitely looking forward to trying it out. And then this whip right here, it's an apple known as William's Pride. It's supposed to be a dark-skinned apple, but very flavorful, very crunchy and juicy. And this one will probably be ready by late fall. Now this guy right over here was originally a Dorset Golden apple. And what we decided is that we were going to take some of the main branches and graft them over with different varieties. So at one point, there were 10 different varieties in this one single apple tree. I think we're down to 8 because we had to prune off a few of the branches. But as you can see, some of them have already been producing. So this is a variety known as Junaluska. Then over here, this is a southern variety known as Mother. This other variety here with a single apple is known as Grimes Golden. That's the parent of Golden Delicious. And then of course we have a couple of stray flowers over here. I think that those do belong to the Dorset Golden. It did produce Dorset Golden apples the first season we planted it. But again, we want to make sure that we're growing different kinds of apples, not just the ones that are considered to be low chill. And so far, we've been successful. So we're really excited about different aspects of that project that can show, yes, you can grow more than just the low chill apples that people tell you that can grow in Florida. As we continue our journey through the different boxes that contain the apple trees, over here we have a variety that's called Rubinet, which is supposed to be one of the best tasting apples in the world. It's a cross between Cox's Orange Pippin and Golden Delicious. So we got a couple of them over here and then on that top branch and over here as well. And we even have a few flowers that are popping out right now. So it's definitely exciting. This is the second year that the tree has been in the ground. And due to the rootstock that is grafted onto, it's able to produce early in its lifetime. That's known as precocity. Over here, we have another apple, and this one is known as Gold Rush. That's another release by the PRI program, Purdue Rutgers University of Illinois, and it's a late apple. So it's gonna hang on the tree for a very long time, but if you take it out of the tree, it's a really great keeper and it can stay refrigerated up to 5-6 months, which is really great. Then we have another cluster over here, and these two apples that are hanging out here, they're from a variety known as Strawberry Pippin, which is from Nova Scotia. It's an apple that is red on the outside, but it's really sweet, juicy, and flavorful. And then the apple tree that's in the middle that has all of this weird branching, it's another variety developed by my friend Stephen Edholm. And this one is a cross between Grenadine and Lady Williams. Lady Williams is one of the parents of Pink Lady. And it's supposed to be a very large apple. It's going to hang late. And it's going to be mainly for baking purposes. This variety over here is the one that is the most productive this season. It is White Winter Pearmain. It was an apple that was developed in Indiana back in the 1800s. And it's got big fruit and small fruit and some flowers and then little fruit that is developing. So we have fruit in all different stages. Now, of course, it's going to be months before any of these are fully ripe. The apples actually turn like a dark red color with some russeting. And some of them are being protected by these organza bags. You can find those on Amazon, different places online. They're supposed to protect from pecking by birds or maybe some squirrels that might want to steal the fruit. Obviously, we have so many fruits that it's kind of impossible to protect all of them. But when the tree is so productive, it's not really that much of a big problem. So this is great. And I also want to show you that in our property, we have these different trees along with some plums, some pluots, mulberry. We have an elderberry. We have a pitanga. We have a miracle fruit. And then the first cluster of apples that I showed you is right next to a cluster of mango trees. So apples and mangoes growing next to each other. So again, just because this is originally from colder climates does not mean that it can't be grown in warmer climates like those of Central Florida. Now, the apples that we have shown you so far have been those planted in the backyard of our property. So now we're going to give you a little tour of the ones that we have planted in the front yard of the property. Let's take a look. Over here we have a variety that's known as Cabo Blanc. This is a variety from France, and it's very similar to a Granny Smith, except that it's supposed to have greater tartness, and it's great for cooking. So for tarts and maybe some pies, it will have a great acidity that in balance with the sugar will make those confections very flavorful. Sometimes when the trees are very vigorous, what we want to do is that we want to take some of the branches and then we will graft different varieties. And this has multiple purposes. Number one, it's going to help with pollination, because if there are different flower types blooming at the same time, it's going to help produce more fruit. Number two, it's going to extend the harvest season so that we can have apples that even though they're blooming at the same time, they're not necessarily ready at the same time. So it extends the harvest season. And then number three, it's going to be a conversation maker. So you're going to have the neighbors passing by and say, wow, what do you have going on? And then they're interested in whatever it is that you're doing because it's something that very few people, if no one else, will have. So that's great. This next tree is known as a Medal d'Or, which is a variety from France for cider. It's an apple that's supposed to be golden, but it has a great tannin content. And it's considered to be a bittersweet apple, so it has plenty of sugar. It's not necessarily one that you may want to eat for fresh eating, but people will say, you know what, I will go ahead and take the adventure. This is going to be one of those, but it's primarily meant for cider production purposes. And speaking of cider, in this Medal d'Or tree, we grafted another variety. So these two and the one that's here in the back, those are known as Golden Harvey. So it's an apple that's supposed to taste like a tart lemonade, but it's really, really good for fresh eating as well as for cider production. There are some more of the Medal d'Ors produced over here. And then in those top branches, very productive variety. Another variety that I would like to talk about is this one that's known as black gillyflower, or the same thing as sheep nose. And the obvious reason for the name of this variety is the shape of the apple. As you can see, is shaped like a sheep nose. It is not the best tasting apple if you let it go all the way ripen to maturity, because it'll have like a dry, sort of mealy consistency. So before that apple is fully colored, that's when you want to pick it out. And then it will have better juice content as well as sort of like clove flavor that is very pleasing. It's not my favorite, but my wife likes it, you know? So I want to make sure that we incorporate apples that are suitable for different tastes. But what I have done is that I have used some of the branches from this tree in order to graft different varieties. And this one is actually one that we grew from seed, and it's supposed to be a pink flesh apple on the inside. This is one of the seedlings that we have developed. And then this is a red flesh seedling as well. Seedling, I should say. My bad. I apologize for all the mistakes that I'm making in this video. And then over here, there's another variety. That's the black strawberry as well that my friend Stephen Edholm developed. So yeah, we just want to make sure that we're providing more opportunities for cross-pollination and to have different fruits at different times. As we move down to the next tree, we will see that this one is loaded with apples right now. And originally, this tree was a cider variety known as Benet Rouge, but I grafted different varieties, and the ones that you see all the apples here, that variety is known as Alcmene, which is a Cox's Orange Pippin cross, I think, with Duchess of Oldenburg. It's really sweet tart, is absolutely delicious, and it's supposed to get red on the outside. So once you see that it's red, it's ready. Really nice, sweet acid balance. These two over here belong to a different variety known as Bramley seedling, and that is an English apple, very famous for cooking pies. So we wanted to have it here. Now, what's interesting about Bramley seedlings is that it's known as a triploid. So a triploid means that it will have a number of chromosomes that renders the pollen of the flowers sterile. So it's not able to self-pollinate, and it's not able to pollinate other varieties. So when you have multiple varieties on the same tree, even if one of those varieties is a triploid, you're basically kind of overriding that difficulty and ensure that you can have something that can pollinate it and that it can pollinate something else at the same time. So as we go down our final raised bed, this apple originally is a summer Rambo, but just like with many of the other trees that we have, we grafted different varieties, and these apples right here are pink lady apples. So these are going to be apples that hang on really late, and they're probably going to be ready by Christmas time. This little bloom cluster over here is for Red Free, which is another release from the PRI program, Purdue Rutgers University of Illinois. And then some of the apples here on this weeping branch are from a variety known as Hauer Pippin. So that's H-A-U-E-R, Hauer Pippin. And then if we keep going down here, this is a variety known as Wixom crab. So it's a crab apple that is specifically bred for cider making because the content of sugar is very high, but at the same time is very acid. So it's gonna give a unique flavor to the cider, but it's also good for fresh eating because of the intensity of flavor. And over here, this apple is originally a Roxbury russet. I believe that we have a couple of Roxbury russet apples over here. This reddening that you see right here is the result of something that's known as San Jose scale, which is an insect that will try to sort of like mine through the apple, and it leaves those marks right there. But as long as the apple is still whole, you don't have to worry about it. You can keep spraying the apple and eventually it will continue to grow with no problems whatsoever. This is another one that over here it has an Roxbury russet, but this one is more russeted than the one that I just showed you over here. Russeting is kind of like a natural coating that the apples develop depending on the weather conditions in your area. If it's more rainy, it tends to be more russeted. But here we also have a variety that's known as Akane, which is from Japan, and this one is also attached in the same tree as the Roxbury russet. So lots of stuff that can be done with apples. And yeah, we're definitely excited for the possibilities of getting different varieties and testing them and see if they actually are able to produce fruit. Now, some of you folks might be wondering, wow, how are they able to get all those different types of apples? What do they feed them? Do they get enough chill hours for those apples? Are they not even real trees? Or are there tricks that they apply in order for those apples to produce fruit? Well, the tricks are just horticultural practices that allow the trees to go dormant in an effective way. And then when we get the longer days and the warmer temperatures, they take those signals and then they produce flowers like they would do up north. However, due to the differences in climate, the blooming season for these trees, instead of happening all at once that it happens in northern climates, it's much more extended. So it's June right now of 2023, and some of these trees have been blooming since maybe the middle of February, if not before. And we still have some blooms months later, which means that the conditions for those apples to bloom, they are different in the south than those conditions that they would have where they are cold winters. But again, all the stuff that we do, we are happy to share it with those people here in Central Florida that wish to grow apples. So if we can do it, so can you. We have a Facebook page that's known as Stone River Nursery. You can take a look at the photos, the videos, and if you have any questions, you can feel free to send us a messenger request and we'll answer the questions and get you interested and excited in growing your very own apple trees. Remember, if we can do it, so can you.